PUBG released back in March of 2017 to an explosive response. The game was shattering records and was everything that anyone was talking about. No one could have expected a game released by such a small Korean studio to be such a massive success. So many of the giants in the industry scrambled to make their own versions of a battle royale to compete with PUBG, each with varying success. Eventually, Fortnite came out with their Battle Royale mode, and that's when the second explosion came. Fortnite since then has far eclipsed PUBG in popularity and numbers, and even launched Epic into being one of the largest companies in the world, seemingly overnight. And then Call of Duty Modern Warfare released their free-to-play Battle Royale mode, Warzone, which has been one of the few games to actually challenge Fortnite's success for more than a few weeks, which has solidified this genre as more than a one-hit wonder and something that is likely here to stay. Which brings me to the subject of today's video, Spellbreak. Spellbreak released back in, well, actually it released just this September. Now you're probably asking yourself, Trevor, why would you talk about a game that just released? And normally, yes, you'd be right, but I haven't seen anyone on YouTube talking about this game, which is odd given the explosive nature of battle royales, especially one that's backed by Epic's deep pockets. Now, I actually played this game back when it was in pre-alpha with one of my friends, and we thought it was pretty neat, but it definitely felt pre-alpha, so we just kind of forgot about it until one day we noticed that the game actually came out full release, so we were like, why not give it another try? So today, my video format's going to be a little bit different. First, I'm going to talk to you about what this game is, what the game does well, and what it doesn't do so well, and then try to come to some kind of conclusion as to why this game isn't being talked about. I mean, who wouldn't love this game? It's got boulders flying, people burning, skin melting, people screaming. It's just a paradise of all the things I love in this world. Sorry about that. For legal reasons, I must say that was a joke. Now before I cover the goods and the bads, it's important for you to understand what this game even is. On the surface, it's a battle royale with a magical twist, but in reality, the game has a lot of unique things to bring to the genre that make it different from the rest of the crowd. Now with the popularity of battle royales, I'm going to assume most of you know what the basic elements are, but for those who don't, I'll give you the short version. Basically, battle royale games are classified by having you and up to 100 other players dropping into a map and then having to fight to be the last one left alive. Think something like the Hunger Games. Then on the other hand, you have Clash, which is the other mode that Spellbreak offers. It's more akin to a TDM mode. The mode has 18 players being split into 2 teams of 9, and you have to duke it out until one of the 2 teams hits the necessary eliminations. Instead of being kicked back to the menus when you're killed, this mode has respawns and has you dropping back in after only a few seconds of being dead. The game also allows you to keep all your equipment, runes, and gauntlets even after dying, meaning that after the initial looting phase, you won't have to spend any time looking for chests, which really helps keep the action flowing. And with this game being completely multiplayer, it completely rides or dies on its gameplay. So does it? I don't know, you tell me.
Okay, well they have to come to us. We've got zone.
They're in, I think.
No, the next one we have. Alright, you see him up on the mountain, Charlie? Oh shit, there's one flanking.
On your left, on your left, on your left, on your left.
That person, okay, you got one?
But in all honesty, this game is far more of a niche battle royale since it doesn't go for the popular trend of being a gritty military shooter and actually tries to be unique by using magic as its weapon of choice. The game includes 6 elements: fire, toxic, lightning, ice, earth, and wind, all of which have their own unique spells and sorceries. A spell acts as your main attack, while the sorceries are a sort of ability that each element has that usually deals damage in a larger area, but they have a cooldown. You don't have to choose just one element to use though. You can get an offhand element as well that acts as a secondary element that has a secondary spell and sorcery to mess around with. And still, the game takes it a step further as each of these elements can interact with each other in unique and realistic ways, such as fire melting ice and lightning shocking water. You can even get pretty crazy with this by having 3 or 4 elements reacting in succession, such as making a tornado, then throwing a shot of toxic in there, and then hitting it with a fireball which will end it off with a giant green mushroom cloud type explosion. To even further augment your playstyle, the game has different runes that you can use that are sort of abilities that you can find or pick up during matches. They range from wall hacks, slow falling hovers, moving back in time. Who am I kidding? Flight's the best rune in the game, you can't convince me otherwise. Just look how awesome that looks. You can't tell me that doesn't look fun as hell. All of these gauntlets and runes have 5 rarities as well: common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary, with each higher tier boosting the stats or reducing the cooldowns. Also, before the start of each match, you can pick up to 3 talents, which is this game's equivalent of perks. These are mostly just passive stat changes though, rather than straight up gameplay changes, some of which can only be unlocked by gaining some more levels in each element. Now I know this sounds like a lot, but the game has a tutorial and a practice mode that you can access at any time to help figure things out or give new combinations of elements a try in a risk-free environment. And trust me, you're gonna want to practice beforehand because in a fight, both players are flying around and flinging elements all over the places at breakneck speed, meaning that you have almost no time to hesitate on what you need to do next, and standing still is bound to get you a quick death. So for the good, there's plenty of like here. The gameplay of using magic instead of guns, like most games, definitely gives the game a unique twist and brings the inner Harry Potter fan out in all of us. The matches are also usually no longer than 15 minutes, which is nice since a lot of these battle royales nowadays feel like they try to drag it out for as long as possible, which just makes dying such a kick in the nuts when you spend 20 minutes gearing up and then you die because some little fucker sniped you from 500 meters away with a 20x zoom sniper scope. The game also has really good progression in my opinion, which is a rarity in battle royales, as you have 3 different experience bars that you can fill up after each match, all of which lead to unlocking different things and almost guarantees that you'll be unlocking at least one new thing after every match, as well as unlocking new talents just by playing with the different elements. Speaking of which, each element is fun to use and is wholly unique from the rest. Also, each element has its own unique upgrade path that will gradually unlock, meaning that the game keeps progression going in match even after you're completely geared up, and this gives even more unique elements to each gauntlet, though some upgrade paths are pretty much the same as another elements, which is a bit of a letdown. And finally, I really appreciate that the game has a really easy loot game to understand. Each item just has different rarities, no extra bullshit, that's it, and each rarity will always just be a straight upgrade from the last, meaning you always know that orange gear is the best and white is the worst, which is a real improvement over something like Warzone in my opinion, where each gun is different and has so many different factors to consider that it can be hard to tell which gun is better just by a quick glance. Now I know that was a lot of information to dump on you at once, so I'll do a quick recap before we move on. So we have unique gameplay, the short match times, good progression, all elements are fun and distinct in their playstyle, Elements, upgrade path, keep progression going after geared, and easy loot game to follow. Now for the not so great. During the making of this video, I asked the Spellbreaker subreddit what they felt was the biggest problem with this game. And well, I got a lot of different responses. Starting off is the wait times to get into a match, which even in the US where I'm located can be up to 5 minutes sometimes. And I've read on the subreddit that people in the Australian servers have to wait upwards of 20 minutes sometimes just to get into a match, which is honestly longer than a match itself if you happen to make it to the very end. And even after you wait all this time to get into the match, the game still doesn't fill up all the way. So the game will put in bots to boost the player numbers in a match. Except these bots are borderline brain dead. They move so angularly and can't seem to attack and move at the same time, meaning that if you're being attacked by one, your best option is just throw everything you have at them, as they won't react to you at all. Bots aren't always a bad thing. Sometimes they can be good, as they can give even the most inexperienced players something to kill. But these bots just feel too dumb to add anything, and they're just there to artificially boost lobby sizes. And while all the different elements are fun to use and are unique from one another, this leads to some elements just feeling outright worse than others. In particular, fire just seems like the outright best element in the game to me, as a single shot can deal about 34 damage at the highest tier, and then can deal 4 damage for each tick of the burning effect that comes after it. Compare this to wind, which deals about 12 damage per hit, and while yes, wind can be shot at a much faster rate than fire, with all the movement in the game, the chances of hitting multiple shots on someone at any one time is very slim, meaning you're just dealing outright worse damage. And this doesn't even account for the different tiers of loot in the game, which means you can sometimes lose a fight just because you got unlucky and only have common gear, while someone else may have opened one chest and got a legendary gauntlet, which just puts them at a statistical advantage even if you're using the same element.
Are you ready?
Hold on. Okay, I'm ready. I said I'm ready. Didn't you hear me? I said I'm ready.
I also don't find the map to be very interesting or unique. When you look at the map screen, it looks like there should be a bunch of unique looking locations, but when you're playing, lots of these locations just end up looking very similar, with either some kind of gray castle structure in a various state of destruction, or a wooden cottage in a various state of destruction. With a game that has all this magic in the world, it's such a shame to see this game play it so safe with its map design when it could really go balls to the wall. Now I'm gonna bring it back to Clash for a bit. This mode feels extremely tacked on, as it shares a lot of the mechanics with the BR mode, such as the same map, same way of looting, the same closing circle mechanic. So it just feels like a half-baked TDM mode thrown in there to appease people who wanted this mode, without taking the time to actually make a competent version of it. Also, I'm not sure if it's a glitch or a feature at this point, but no matter what tier necklace I had, I always had the default mana pool in Clash, which meant that I could basically do nothing before I had to stop to recharge my mana, but other people seemed to be flying around like they had infinite mana, so I don't know what kind of shenanigans is going on in Clash, but I don't like it. And finally, probably the most egregious sin this game commits is the skill gap and the lack of any kind of skill-based matchmaking. With so many elements to master, the difference between someone who's playing their first match and someone playing their 500th match will be very vast, and the new player will almost always lose to the more experienced player, which can just be such a turnoff for the newcomers and something that will quickly turn them off from the game before they even have time to learn it. And this is just further compounded by the fact that the game doesn't have an effective anti-cheat, so hackers have allegedly been pretty rampant in this game. Though I can't confirm this personally, as I've never seen a hacker blatantly cheating, and there's no kill cam to see, so I don't know if they're cheating or if they're just really good at the game and they just destroy me in the fight. Once again, I know I just said a lot of shit, so here's a quick recap for you. The bad is the wait times, bots, some elements are just downright worse than others, the uninspired map, clash, tiers can just put you in outright disadvantage, more experienced players will almost always destroy less experienced ones. All of this just seems to indicate that the devs are a little on the inexperienced side, and they just didn't know what kind of game design skill it required to pull off a game of this skill level. And I know it sounds like I'm shitting on this game a lot, but it's far easier to explain what's wrong with a game than what's done right, as if it's doing everything right, you often don't even notice it. The Battle Royale genre is an interesting one for sure, considering it's so new, yet it has probably some of the biggest games in the world right now, like Fortnite, Warzone, Apex Legends, and even originally PUBG. Since these games have proved to be insanely successful and widely profitable, many other companies have decided to hop on the bandwagon and give their best shot to make the next Fortnite. Some tried to be new and interesting like Hunt Showdown, but most are just blatant cash grabs that are banking on the success and appeal of the genre while not bringing anything new to the table. And while I do think that Spellbreak is a unique and fun take on the Battle Royale genre, I feel that it suffers from an identity crisis. What I mean by this is the game is structured and is designed in a way that you're supposed to use all of its systems, but when you do, that's just not conducive to a Battle Royale format. When you get a grip on everything the game gives you in your toolkit and take the time to master it, you can truly become a force to be reckoned with. But what this means is that, more so than in many other games in the genre, the new players stand almost no fighting chance against the players that have put dozens of hours into the game. Which, when you already have to wait a few minutes just to get into the match, this skill gap is something that will likely turn most new players away. I feel like this game would have benefited from being a more traditional multiplayer experience where you take out all the tiered loot and instead go with loadouts, and instead of having the same big map every time, you instead have a bunch of different smaller maps that each have their own unique design and feel for them and better play with the need for positioning and map knowledge. This dichotomy can actually be seen with Apex Legends and Titanfall 2. Apex Legends is the Battle Royale made by the same people that made Titanfall 2, and while I think Apex is an amazing Battle Royale, it doesn't change the fact that many people still preferred Titanfall 2 over it, since Titanfall 2 took the gameplay of Apex but boiled it down to the purest elements and has none of the excess fat, of which the result is a game that's all action all the time at a breakneck speed. And while Apex still very much relies on positioning and map knowledge just as much as many Battle Royales do, Titanfall 2 also had things like jump packs, wall running, and grapple hooks. And then you even have Titan on pilot combat to consider, which makes a master of all of these elements an absolute monster. While in Apex, the mastery of tactics, map knowledge, and mechanics can only get you so far, since there are so many random elements to the game such as loot and circle positions, which can lead to someone beating you just because they got a lucky loot drop or got far more favorable circle position. All of this is to say that while there's nothing wrong with the random factors that come with the Battle Royale genre, in fact that's even one of the biggest draws of it, I don't think that that's really best suited for Spellbreak. It just feels like the choice was made more so on the fact that battle royales are popular right now, and they allow for crazy amounts of monetization with their cosmetic stores, rather than the battle royale genre being the best fit for the game they wanted to make. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a pretty long video, so if you made it this far, thank you so much again, and consider subscribing if you're liking the content that I'm making. Once again, this is Trevor, and I'll see you guys in the next video.